Hi, Steve.
Hi,
Fantastic to see
Barrett.
you today. How are you today?
Wonderful. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well, thank you. And welcome to Coaching in Life, our little talk of the week. What are we going to give our listeners today?
So I think what we're going to talk a little bit about, and we might dive in a couple different directions, but it's about just being able to come to coaching in life and being able to find that there is a consortium of coaches. And whatever you may need today might be something different than what you need next week. And I'll give you an example. Maybe today you're having some marital issues and you'd like to see like a life coach or a love coach, and you might go to Troy, for instance. And then next week you might have a business problem with your boss or counterparts, and you might come to myself or you. And then the following week you might want to look at it from a spiritual side and you go to Brian and Lisa. We are a consortium of coaches that offer all of this under one single platform. And that's something that's really unique. And that's something that, depending on where you're at, we have a coach that can help you. And if that shifts within a given week or a given month, we have a coach that can help you.
I like that too. I mean, I like the fact that you can ask people and the confidentiality and the trust that there is between, but also the fact that we coaches come together. I think that that's an amazing strength. Sharing other coaches like you and I have this talk,
Yep.
I don't see that anywhere else. And I really hope that they can really beneficial for them that. So going back to what you and I are good at, business and employees and
Yeah.
being an employee or being in business, what is our topic today?
I mean, there's several different things we can go down. I think the biggest one is, we talked a little bit on it last week. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to have all the answers, and you don't have to know exactly what you want. You don't need to know exactly what you want the end result to be. And that's the part of coaching, is it is collaboration. Our role is primarily asking the right questions, helping you come to the realization and the right sources. um, but there's a lot of things that it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen that one time. It's not transactional. It's a collaboration. It's a relationship. And just feeling like, even if you have one question or you have 10 questions, bring it to us. As we know, we're a safe place to ask. We're not here to judge. We're here to help. We're here to support. And we're here to give you that guidance. But we're also here to work with you and sort of break that layers down, whether it's one question that you need or it's 10. And hopefully we can uncover and dive a little bit deeper to find out what the true root cause is. And then we can move forward and find out what is the resolution, what's the solution, and how do you want to progress kind of in your life, in your career, what have you.
I think that one of the challenges that I myself has definitely working procurement has seen that it is the establisher of supply chains and but putting structure together in systems
Yep.
is definitely that you have a finance system, you have a ERP system, you have a CMR control system, each system where people plug in some information. And sometimes the systems don't always optimize together. And in between, you have a person trying to adapt to one, trying to adapt to the other. Whereas if they had the opportunity to tell someone and get it out in the open the right way, actually I see that we could do something here more efficiently. I think that that would benefit a lot of companies, a lot of savings, a procurement like savings and efficiency. But I think that there's a lot there because people right now are struggling not to go against the system.
Well, and you bring a really good point. One of the things I talk about is authenticity, and that comes from employees, that comes from leadership. We always hear the term vulnerability, right? And there's that fine line on being vulnerable, being transparent, and
Mhm.
then not being. It's how do you walk that? And that's really where coaching can come in, is to help you sort of navigate what might be troubled waters or might be that borderline. Some people say, stay in your swim lane, don't give your boss or your leaders too much pushback. But then again, some of them want it. So when you look at it from your perspective, although I'm not a procurement person, you frame that very well. It's like building a house. You've got a foundation, you've got the frame, you've got the roof, you've got the walls. We don't expect everybody to come in and know how to build a house from ground up by themselves. You've got to have other people that are specialists. And kind of that's what you're getting at a little bit. So for me, when I'm thinking of authenticity, when I'm thinking of, your business leaders and how your word was efficiency, right? Like how you put that together. You have all these different departments. Most people are going to be strong in a few of them, and they're going to be weak in one or two. And our goal is to not necessarily make those weak parts very strong, but to understand how important are those weak parts to the overall situation, and to really bring it to light. So bring in structure, bring in efficiencies is a really good thing to look at. And what I encourage any listener out there is you don't have to have it figured out, but you got to ask. You got to be vulnerable. And sometimes it's hard being vulnerable with your bosses. And that's why we're in business. That's why we're here to help. Be vulnerable with us, because we're not going to judge you. We're not going to tell anybody. And it's not going to affect your life or your career in a sense. Hopefully it will affect it in a positive way.
I actually think that sometimes, you might have a question, and you can have that question among your colleagues and who you're with. Asking the same questions a few times makes it even smarter and better. You form and shape things, especially because when you're speaking about right now building a house, you didn't do it before. You had a drawing, and that's actually what businesses are doing today. They're building a lot of houses in systems that are not, it's all virtually. You can't see the system. What impact does it have? And right now you have people thinking this financial system, and if we do it like that, that's the result. But you don't know the impact and the influence that it has. So I think that this is a very good point. So to our listeners, what would you give as good advice? What are you thinking here? How should people go about if they see a thing that they would like and understand? What would you do?
So there's several things to sort of answer that question. I don't think there's the right or the wrong answer. One thing I always do is I look at it from both a positive and a negative. I look at it from a short-term, long-term. I look at it from an investment for myself. It's time, it's money. Is it going to affect my personal life? Things like that. But when I look at something, if it's, say, for instance, a challenge, I like to write it out. I put it on a Word document. I save it. And I wouldn't say that I'm maniacal about it or I focus too much on it, but I think about it. And if it's something that I think is going to be short term, I think about it much smaller, kind of focused areas where I don't think about it like all night and harbor on it. I make a shorter, quicker decision because it's not going to affect me long term. And I'll give you an example. Like if I'm writing a resume, for instance, and I'm looking for a new job, I'm going to think about my resume very well. But every single time I send it out, I'm not going to get so involved with, is this perfect? Is everybody going to read it? Because the person that's going to receive that resume on the other side, I don't know them. I haven't met them. I haven't spoke to them. I don't know what their views or their environment is. So I just don't overthink it. I just do it. Now, when I'm interviewing, totally different, because that affects me. This could be my career. So now I'm going to think about it overnight. Now I'm going to really harbor. I'm going to get some people to help me out. So for me, it's I write it out. I think about it, the day or the night, and then I come to a resolution fairly quickly. But I have to think of it. How is this going to affect me, 5 months from now? Is this going to affect me 5 years from now? And that's where I make a determination. Is it a quick decision? It's quick. It's not a big deal. Or it's something that, wow, this could really impact me. I better dig into it. Then I'm going to get research. I'm going to ask some coaches. I'm going to get some questions and really harbor on it.
So what you're saying is a little bit, what I'm hearing is that we have for a long time been working the zero mistake culture. The zero mistake, people are afraid to ask, people are afraid to afraid to make a mistake. They go in and things need to be perfect. But actually what we're speaking about right now is we're taking things to a higher level than perfect, because perfect once things are very good and in that, when you challenge that and you look for things that are even better to be excellent, you start finding out that in your first thought, what you thought were perfect, starts a new world. So what you're actually saying is that where we stand right now, when we start asking, we find out that we can do it even better.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the big thing is not to not do anything and wait for all the answers. It's to start doing it and get the answers as you're working around. Like for me, I know where I want to be 10 years from now in my career. I don't necessarily know the exact path on how I'm going to walk there or get there. I can visualize it, but I'm not overly concerned with the path to get me there in 10 years, but I'm concerned with the end result. And I'm concerned with the now, the today, and what my goals are, maybe in the next 6 months to a year. But I don't stress out about year 2, year 3, year 5. I just know that my vision and my focus is this is where I got to be in year 10. I write down my goals and I chip them away and I look at them sometimes every week, and I'll make new goals, I'll make little tweaks, and I'm not so caught up in every single detail to be perfect to get there. I have a roadmap, but that road is going to become unpaved at some point. It's going to become uphill. It's going to have rocks and pebbles. Things might even get thrown at me. But the reality of it is I know this is where I'm going, but I don't necessarily have every step in which I'm going to take. And I'll give you another example. I've watched the movie like Mount Everest, for instance, right? It is a tough feat to climb that mountain. Someday I'd love to do it, but there's so much preparation. But once you get on the mountain and once you get past base camp and you go up, you've got the elements in the environment that you can't control. Very much like your career, very much like your life. You can plan for it, but things are going to change and you've got to be able to shift a little bit. So to your point, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to take steps. You have to take actions. And as long as you know kind of where you want to go, what that end result looks like, keep asking questions, being vulnerable, and seek coaches to help you get there.
I think that exactly like you, I'm very structured. I know exactly what I want, where I want to go. And then in between those directions, there's many detours. And I think that the detours is also tough learning and good learning. And it is not always what happens to you or for you. It is also your ability to move on and work with it and grow from that. And I think that you become even stronger, even better, as long as you keep the vision. You can take the struggle on the way.
Yep.
Having said that, if you want to give our listeners, why should they reach out to us? What is it that we can do differently?
So you made me think of one thing, and then I'll answer your question. So don't be afraid to fail, but fail forward.
Yeah.
You don't fail and stop. You don't fail and fall behind. You're failing forward. So it's always a lesson. So why would our listeners want to reach out to Coaching in Life, to us? Great question. Love it. And there is a dozen reasons they should reach out to us. I can't speak for every listener out there because I don't know what situation they're in right now. I don't know where they came from, their environment. But the reality of it is we are a sounding board. We are here to listen to them, to hear. And our goal is we've got a different perspective. Each coach that we're part of Coaching in Life has a different tune, a different ear for something. And we're looking for not to put holes into kind of their situation, but we're looking for the gaps. And our job, as I call it from a leadership perspective, is we're here to build bridges, not to build walls.
Yeah.
So we're going to find that gap. We're going to hear it. We're going to listen to it. We're going to be honest with you. We're going to be vulnerable with you. And we're going to help. How do we build that bridge over that gap? And is it a gap that you need a bridge, or do you really want to divert course? So listeners are coming to us not only because we've seen things and done things and we've got the advice, but we're here to listen. We're here to help and support. And we have great coaches, dozens of coaches that have a variety of backgrounds. So whatever your needs may be, we've got a coach for you.
I think that's the final words. I think that for everyone, this is Steve from coachinginlife.com and Beat from coachinginlife.com. We want to wish you a good day and thank you for listening in with us. And let's share something next week. What should our topic next week be, Steve?
Whew, I don't know. I'd be curious to see if there's anyone out there listening that would put in a suggestion, because I'd like to kind of cater to what the listeners might be looking for. I'm always kind of looking at career coaching. I'm always kind of looking at emerging leaders, how people can level up in their careers. And that's sort of my passion and what I do a lot of coaching around. But I'm open for any suggestions.
I'm with you on that. I think that that's a good point. For me, I'm always looking to bridge gaps. I see that improving, making solid business that's lastable and sustainable. That's what people like. They like something they can walk into and feel that this is trustworthy. So if any listeners are into that, I am open for any questions. I hear your point. I think that we're in the same area, that we can definitely... We can put something together for the listeners. So
yeah, I mean, there's one thing that always comes to mind is I always use kind of a lot of catchy, quick phrases, and I always think of like happy, but never content. And so that's a big one for me is like, I love my career. I love my job. I'm happy, but I'm always looking for the next step. I'm not stressed out about it, but what is the next step for me? So maybe that's something we can dig into. The other one that I always think about is inner drive. What gets you motivated every day? How do you come to work? How do you come as your whole self? So those are kind of two topics that are kind of close to myself right now.
I think that we should take the two topics, let's work them, and let's start talking about that. Dear listeners, see you next week. This is all from Coaching in Life.
Bye now. Have a good night.